If you asked me 2.5 years ago what film did I think I was making, it would not be the one that you can now watch. We discovered a cache of remarkably personal letters which have now come from beyond the grave. So the backdrop is, at home, there's no money. And then of course when the film comes out, it does terrible box office and disappears. Robin Hardy also disappears, leaving wife Caroline with his debts and his 2 children. That is a story that's never been told. It's a story that couldn't have been told because we're the ones to have first found it. I became interested in the stories behind the Wicker Man, like many people, as soon as I'd seen it. I sort of went, oh my God, how did they make this? Why did they make this? It then became an absolute joy when years later I was working alongside and lecturing alongside the son of the director of the Wicker Man. I thought, okay, well here's my ticket, now I'm going to find out all about it. Only to discover that Justin Hardy was not a fan of the Wicker Man and his dad's film, and therefore that we spent many years not talking about it. So our initial conception for the film was a kind of mystery. You know, the brothers, the sons of Robin Hardy, who don't quite understand their dad and who don't quite understand the film, set out to explore the mysteries of that film, both the production mysteries, but also its enduring appeal and the mystery of that. In order to answer those questions, we wanted to approach a range of interesting people in different fields who had something interesting to say about the Wicker Man. And we needed help. So we brought the film here to the University of Birmingham and recruited some other people who could help get us some connections.
I've always loved British film, particularly horror film. What appeals particularly about The Wicker Man is the strange mix of horror, musical, black comedy and drama that pervades it. One moment it's police procedural, another moment it's black comedy. Another moment, the narrative is accompanied by music in a way that you only really see in musical theatre. It moves style and it moves genre seamlessly, and yet still delivers a horrific denouement. I first became involved in the film when I was approached by Chris Nunn and by Richard Langley in the film department. Richard was my co-supervisor. So obviously he knew the subject area that I was studying around folk horror, on screen, on film. The film documentary was inspired by the discovery of a body of material, letters, camera scripts, all sorts of other things that was previously unknown. My role on the film was to bring together academics, researchers, artists and makers to deliver initially what was going to be quite a traditional examination of the film, thinking about its themes, looking at its production, looking at how it was received. However, once we explored this trove of material and uncovered some of the stories and the insights hidden within it, it actually identified a much more personal and emotional connection between the filmmakers and the film and their childhoods than we would ever have appreciated initially, and it took the film in a much more interesting and different direction.
As we were working with the brothers and looking at the material, I think that's when it became apparent, you know, quite how much of an impact the Wicker Man had had on the family. And most specifically, we discovered the evidence that Robin Hardy's wife Caroline had in fact bankrolled him at various points. So the backdrop is, at home, there's no money, and yet he's still fighting to get the film out. And then of course the tragedy is when the film comes out, it does terrible box office and disappears. Alongside the film disappearing, Robin Hardy also disappears, leaving Caroline with his debts and his 2 children. That is a story that's never been told. It's a story that couldn't have been told because we're the ones to have first found it. And that changed then the direction of the film that we were making. In this case, suddenly, the filmmakers are also the participants. Then once we had the more personal angle come in, it felt like we needed a more fresh approach to represent that. And so we were able to turn again to the University of Birmingham and to find some local talent to help us do that edit.
I did both my undergraduate and my master's degrees here at Birmingham. I learned editing here at university. I learned how to tell stories through film here, and I work as digital and media technician here in the film department. I was really excited to be approached in the first instance to join the project. I'd only edited shorts before and sort of commercial projects, so the chance to do a feature film was really exciting. Initially, the quirkiness of my edit was really strong. You know, zippy choices, zippy sound effects, fast-paced music. We've got these photographs, we've got these papers. How would one look at them if it was a family history in a scrapbook, a photo album? So that's where that aesthetic kind of came from. But as the story progressed and the emotions got stronger, that really did have to take a back seat and kind of let the voices of those two brothers come through. As an editor, you're sort of making some executive choices in what you say and what you leave out of a story. And I really didn't want to sort of hurt their feelings. You know, they're real people, these are real emotions that are happening. Justin says in the film, you know, we're real brothers, this is real life, or something along those lines. So yeah, I had to sort of tread very carefully in how I crafted their story. There was a lot of responsibility, but I think it worked out for the best.
So there we were in probably February of 2023. This is the 50th anniversary. If we are going to make this film and comment on or be involved in the discourse around the Wicker Man at 50, we've got to get moving. So we applied for some urgency impact acceleration money from the AHRC to get us to Scotland so we could follow in the footsteps of the original production for a roller coaster shoot. In many respects, the University of Birmingham was absolutely essential in getting this film made. We were also supported, obviously, by facilities and kit, as well as the fabulous colleagues that you've heard about, and eventually by a second round of IAA funding that got the film through its early distribution stages and its film festival tour. So my collaborators and I have been on a hell of a journey. Where that led us as a team was to a very personal film. We quite authentically had followed the two sons of Robin Hardy on their journey and captured some very emotional moments in the process of doing that. And they belonged on screen. That was a very difficult process, but I dare say it's the process we had to go through in order to make sure that audiences could walk away with an appropriate appreciation for what had happened to this family. I feel quite strongly that the University of Birmingham is in a prime position to say to the region, well, look, okay, we see that there's lots of people out there struggling to get their films made. We think we might have some solutions to helping you on that journey. I mean, this is an absolute win for universities, and it's a win for filmmakers and an industry that is sat around going, well, what on earth do we do next?
We are at a point where we're seeing independent cinema disappear. Film itself is not doing so great in terms of trying to create and nurture new talent, and universities are fundamentally about new talent. The role of universities is to bring in and educate and train and provide opportunity to young people who want to go on and utilise their talent and their creativity and go on and create.
Getting to see students working creatively and kind of helping them through that process helps me through my creative processes. It's a weird kind of support system, I suppose. Back in 2015 or so, when I first joined the university, we were in this tiny little cupboard at the top of the arts building. I think there was one computer that you could edit on and maybe like 2 cameras. And now we've got a whole kit room's worth. We've got iMac suites galore, brand new media facilities, podcasting, everything. The growth and investment has just been fantastic to see for both students and staff working here in such a lovely environment.
Universities really are the bedrock of how we sustain and keep these industries thriving, and they have a real role in terms of creating opportunities for students and young filmmakers to go off and be able to get the start and do what they need to do.
We're able to give students an opportunity to work on these films, paid, I hasten to add, and get their first feature film credits.
Career-wise, it's been amazing. I got to work on a feature film, which not everyone of my age can say. I find my home here at the university. When I go to these industry events, I'm like, nah, get me back to the uni.